Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today we are going to have a look at the brand new Local Legend 23 by Microsoft and iniBuilds for Flight Simulator 2024, and this is of course the Fokker F-27 Friendship. A beautiful airplane, really can tell you that. And you may say like, well, I've seen that one before. Yeah, that's because you've probably already been to FS Weekend, where they have one of those on display in the local museum. Now, I couldn't make it to FS Weekend this time, but have been there a couple of times in the past, and amongst others took this lovely picture from the control tower of the old Amsterdam municipal airport. So really lovely. I can absolutely recommend you to go even outside of FS Weekend. It's a fantastic museum. Now, we are going to fly from Aerosoft's brand new Stuttgart airport, which I gotta say is one of the best airports in the entire simulator now. Now, this is not exactly the Stuttgart preview that I had originally planned, and that one is most definitely still going to come, but I thought that an amazing airplane like the Fokker 27 most definitely does deserve to get some attention beforehand. Alright, so here we are, and we are going to do a little flight around. Now, the question was, what type of video could I make out of this? And I'm totally honest with you, this is the first time that we are flying a KLM livery from a German airport to a German airport. A totally unrealistic flight, but I simply had to figure out some nice flight, including some lovely conventional navigation, and this one includes about everything. Standard instrument departure directed by VORs, and then an ILS approach based on an NDB. So we are going to do the complete thing of Fokker navigation today. Obviously, you could just use the GPS as well, but we'll get to talk a little bit about that once we actually get inside. Alright then, I think that was a lot of basics over here, so why don't we start with a little walk around our Fokker. Now, we are going to start right up here in the front, and you'll notice that there is a cargo door located at the very front over here, and the passenger compartment is behind that. We're going to take a little bit more detailed look at that in a couple of moments, but for now let's start actually walking around the airplane over here and just having a look at the fantastic visuals of the Fokker F-27. Now, it's been developed by iniBuilds, so you can kind of expect the quality of the airplane already, and I can tell you it is enjoyable to fly. A look into the nose wheel compartment shows us lots of detail over here as well. Not as detailed as some other pairware aircraft, but hey, this one's launched at a price of some 14 or 15 euros. Standard price will be 20 euros, so I think the quality we are getting for the price is phenomenal already. So here's the right-hand engine with the right main landing gear. Again, you can see the amount of details that went into the airplane over here. Fantastic modeling, exactly what we've come to expect from anything where iniBuilds is involved. Okay then, let's walk along the leading edge of the plane. Here's our retractable landing light, which does actually extend when you hit the appropriate switch. Now here's our pitot tube on the outside of the wing. Let's go ahead and remove that cover, and then we can walk all the way to the back, where we do see a little problem. That's the default registration of the airplane, and you can see it's mirrored on the right hand side. On the left side it's totally okay, on the right hand side unfortunately mirrored. Okay, so looking at the back of the airplane and the tailplane over here. It's a very small elevator, as you can see, compared to the size of the airplane, but believe me, it can do some lovely things. We'll see all of that once we're actually in flight. At low speed it's very weak. You will especially notice that during the flare of the airplane. By the way, isn't it funny, have a Fokker 27 here and then a 737 MAX taxiing over there. Just gotta love it. Okay, and that's the walk around and the outside model. Now, the actual passenger entrance is located at the back of the aircraft, so let's walk right over there and get in. And as you can see, on the left side the registration is normal. Okay, so let's open that up, and then we're gonna get inside. Now, here's the aft galley of the airplane, or actually the only galley of the airplane. You can see there is not all that much space over here. There are some coffee makers and a little bit of stuff where you could maybe put a trolley and stuff. We've got 2 cabin crew drum seats in the back over here, and then we're already in the passenger cabin. There isn't all that much space in here. Now, they did put some stuff in the overhead compartment. I can't say overhead lockers in this airplane, because they simply aren't lockers. Kind of looks funny seeing this from a modern perspective, that you could just put the stuff in here. Turbulence, yeah, who cares? This plane is going to fly in flight level 500, so there is no weather any... Wait a moment. No, it's going to fly up to flight level 200 and no higher than that, so a little careful there. Also nice to see those seats at the back of the cabin with the higher backrests, so that you don't knock your head against the walls when I'm flying. Alright, overall, beautifully crafted. Again, for a default aircraft, fantastic textures, even if you're getting close up. Now, I did just say default, of course, it's not default per se, but let's say for a Microsoft aircraft, you know what I mean with that. I mean, 15 bucks. Alright, there's our cargo compartment right up here, so let's open that door and make our way up front. And yeah, a little bit of cargo is actually currently loaded on board as well. Now here's the cargo door that you can actually open over here as well. Here's what it looks like. And you can see that this does trigger the walkaround mode again. And the same applies when we're opening it from the outside to get back in. Apparently they are using it as an entrance into the cabin as well. Okay, and then here's the flight deck of our lovely Fokker 27. Now, it may look a little confusing at first, but believe me, it took me 3 flights, or 3 attempts, I should say, and then I've kind of found my way around this, so it's not actually as complex. The overhead is pretty much all communications equipment, like you got a comm radio, you got another comm, or you got a comm 2 and 3 up there, nav radio down there, ADF, and the audio control panel and the transponder, and that's it. So the entire overhead panel over here is just communications. Then you got the anti-ice on the right hand side, you got the engine starters and batteries on the top, you got your lights on the left. So it's actually fairly easy. Now this is not a tutorial. I will, however, make a separate tutorial for the aircraft. But for that I want to wait until Microsoft actually releases the product manual, which is not out yet. So this is kind of all based on the checklist that you do find in here, which is rather useful, but then again doesn't tell us a lot of stuff that would be nice to know for an actual tutorial. Okay, so that's pretty much what we got over here. The main panel is quite easy. Got your standard T over here, then you got the ADF down here, weather radar, engine instruments, and the same stuff on the FO side. One thing I did notice is that the airplane only seems to have a single DME indicator, which is a little unfortunate, because that DME up there is blocked from the captain's point of view if the landing gear lever is up. So I do hope that they are gonna do something about that, maybe give us another DME somewhere up here or so, just somewhere where we can see it in our primary field of view, because right now it's a little unfortunate that we cannot really see the DME nicely, but you will see that once we're in flight. Alright, and that's pretty much our flight deck. Down here, standard controls for a turboprop aircraft. You don't have any propeller speed controls, you just have the thrust levers and the condition levers, flaps, autopilot, and that's it. Oh, autopilot master in case you're looking for it. Alright, and that's everything we got in here. Overall, beautiful model. I do really like it, especially for the price of the product. And then I'd say we are going to go ahead and do a little flight with it. Now, for that particular flight, we are going to do things rather simple. So let's go ahead and have a very quick look into SimBrief. So this is what we are going to do. We are departing Stuttgart on the Karlsruhe to hotel departure, arriving in Baden-Baden on the Karlsruhe for Mike arrival. So it's basically SID, STAR, standard ILS. Now, right now there is no profile available, so I just took the NAMC YS11, which is kind of similar aircraft, in order to get, you know, something. We'll be cruising in flight level, they do say 100 over here, probably going to go a little higher to get out of the clouds, like 120 or so. Okay, and that's everything we are going to do. Now, something that's new in this local legend is that we actually have the ability to open Navigraph charts in here. So you can see down here, you now have that switch. You can either use the standard Lido charts or you can use Navigraph. Now, since Lido charts are kind of airliner charts of the modern day, we will be using Navigraph for today's flight. Apart from that, the EFB is quite easy. You can look up some metas over here, like Echo Delta Delta Sierra, search that. That gets us the current weather. Then you do have the checklists down here. Then you can do SimBrief import for whatever it's worth, really. I mean, can do that down here. Then you also get your flight plan up here, which, you know, can be useful if you got a good flight plan format and once a SimBrief profile is available for the aircraft. Apart from that, we do have the ground menu where we can control the doors, where we can connect an external power unit, where we can control the chocks and the pitot covers, and the cabin lights. Then we do have the standard map, which you can switch to the Navigraph map, which is really nice. And otherwise, you just have the standard Microsoft Flight Simulator GPS map. You know, can be useful for navigating, especially when you aren't as comfy with VOR navigation and if you may or may not want to use the GNS up here. Now, the next point is the options, and like I just said, if you don't want to use the GNS 430, you do have two more options available, which are the PMS 50 GTN and the TDS GTN 650, which is an absolutely fantastic navigation unit, but I kind of want to keep the old flair in this aircraft, so I'm gonna stick to the GNS 430. Unfortunately, at this point, you cannot completely deselect the GPS, and I think there's a little logic in there as well, because if you look over the panel, then you can find a COM2 and a COM3, but what you cannot find is a COM1. So the only COM1 is contained inside the GPS over here. Now, I gotta say, the GPS doesn't really bother me too much because it's kind of nicely stowed in this box that someone has mounted on the panel. You can nicely see all the plugs and everything going into the panel back there as well. Lovely modeled and absolutely looks what a modern iteration of Fokker 27 that's still flying would look like. So, overall, fantastic. I do really like it. I do really like it the way this is done over here. Okay, then you can of course enter your SimBrief details and connect the Navigraph account so that you can use Navigraph charts. And yeah, that's pretty much it already. That's everything there is in the electronic flight bag. A little rudimentary, but honestly it covers everything that we need. And yeah, that's what counts, isn't it? Okay, so beautifully done, beautifully crafted, and I really gotta say, an absolutely fantastic looking airplane, especially for the price point. Now, obviously, price point means that it is not going to be full study level. I think nobody's questioning that. The second question is how many people could actually fly it if it was full study level. Probably not too many, so it still comes at an enjoyable system level, like you would expect from a price of 20 euros. Or 15 euros as it costs currently with a launch discount applied in Marketplace. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and actually do a little bit of work. We'll base everything over here on the checklists available in the EFB down here. I just screenshotted them and pulled them to my iPad so that I don't have to look back down here for every single one step. Alright then, let's get going. Preliminary preparation checklist. Technolog and maintenance status are checked. Aircraft documents checked. Emergency equipment checked. Oxygen system is not simulated. Then circuit breakers are checked in. Landing gear lever is down. Flaps are up. And instruments, not all that much to check over here. Most important thing later on will be the compass, because I did already notice some issues with that when doing GSX pushbacks. Yeah. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Remember the Honda Jet? So yeah, GSX. Okay, and that's the preliminary preparation checklist complete. So let's do the cockpit preparation. That's exterior walkaround performed, and we've done that. So batteries on. Then external power on. So agent low pressure lights, that's on the fire extinguisher panel up here, and they're all out. Checked. Fuel quantity is checked and half. Weight and balance checked. Emergency lights not simulated. Then air conditioning set, that's on the right hand side over here. So right down here we can set the windscreen heat. Then we got the cockpit heating over here, and that's all set. Then pressurization, so we are going to climb, let's go ahead and set 4,500 feet of target cabin altitude down here. So pressurization is checked, cabin signs on, park and brake, that's released, that's set, okay, is set. And the brake pressure is checked up here. Okay, comms and navs set. So this is where things are gonna get interesting now. Let's go ahead and start getting that GPS aligned, and then we can head right down into the Navigraph charts. So airport, we will need the airport chart and the parking stand charts, and then for our departure, we're looking for the Karlsruhe to Hotel departure, which is this one over here. Now, Karlsruhe to Hotel is on the 072 radial outbound Stuttgart VOR, 1685. So 1685 goes in an F1. And we do need a DME associated with that, and the DME is up here. And you only have a single DME on board the airplane, so you always got to set that up here on top of the standard, standard VOR. So Karlsruhe VOR is set, and thereafter at 5.6 DME Stuttgart, it's going to be a left-hand turn, radial 152 inbound Luburg, 19.2. Let's go ahead and set that one on nav2. So 19.2, and I'm also going to pre-select it down here for actual navigation, 19.2. Okay, and thereafter 277 outbound. Initial ground clearance, altitude 5,000. So here's our altitude selector, and 5,000 is in here. Then we can also switch that DME on. Like, here we go. And finally, we got our transponder, standby, and squawk 2,000. Alright, we'll transmit VHF. Well, we'll transmit on VHF 1 and listen to VHF 1 and 2 and to the interphone as well. For the time being, we don't need anything over here. So COM 2 is going to go to 101.5 and COM 3 12345. Like that. Alright, power is on for both radios. We cannot set anything for the weather radar. So that's all done, and with that our comms and navs are all set. Okay, actually one thing that we can do is the heading buck down here, which is going to go to 072, and the same for the course, 072, here we go. Okay, lovely, so comms and navs are set, trims, neutral, neutral, and neutral. And that's the cockpit preparation checklist complete. Okay, lovely. So let's go ahead and get ourselves a pushback tuck. Handling by Stuttgart Airport, please. So then the doors should be closed now, and they are. Ground power unit. Yeah, I tell you what, we can already go ahead and disconnect that, can we? So ground power unit is off and removed from the airplane. Chocks are removed as well. Park and brake is set. And with that, we are set up for the pushback down here. So, Karlsruhe, parking stands, and here we are. Easy going. Stand 17, so pushback facing east, and then it's a very quick taxi down to runway 07. Okay, lovely. Now, we could go ahead and program our GPS. So let's just go ahead and do that real quick. Echo, Delta, Delta, Sierra from Stuttgart. And the arrival is going to be Echo, Delta, Sierra, Bravo. Karlsruhe, Baden-Baden. Now procedures, departure, Karlsruhe to Hotel. Runway 07, load, and procedures. Arrival, that's going to be the Karlsruhe 1. I think it's whiskey. No, it's not. Okay, let's just reselect that. Karlsruhe 1 Echo, runway 07, and load. Why is that returned the airplane in Stuttgart? Okay, that was wrong. Well, doesn't matter too much, probably not. Yeah, it actually has the wrong airport in there. That's why. I'm gonna take it easy here. Echo Delta Sierra Bravo. That way, Karlsruhe 1 Lima. That's it. Okay, and load. Thank you. Great, so now we should be ready to pushback. So let's go ahead and do the before start checklist here. That's windows and doors. So the windows are closed, the doors have been closed earlier. Then anti-collision light on, fuel pumps are on, and power and condition levers idle and shut. Before start checklist complete. So Grand Cockpit, we are ready to push and start, and runway 07 is in use. Pushback approved facing east on mic. Release parking brakes. Parking brake released. Roger, start the pushback and stand by for engine start. Now let's see, I hope that we are not completely killing the battery right now. Oh, 25.5 volts, that's still good. Okay, lovely. So come on Pegasus, you get clear quickly. And with that, here we go. Our first flight in the Fokker 27. I think he saw us coming. He's expediting his taxi. Beautiful little plane, isn't it? I think many of you long-time viewers of the channel know that I love historic aviation. Really looking forward to the TriStar and the 747-100 as well here. So you can imagine that I'm quite happy to see the Fokker 27 as well. Okay then, I think the pushback is pretty much completed down here. I'm going to wait until it is completely, and then we'll commence engine start. You can see at the moment GSX is sometimes doing strange things to the plane, like right now, which is, by the way, the reason why I went to the outside view here. And if we started the engines now, you know, we would make a good shashlik out of our ramp agent again, and don't really want to do that. We've killed so many already. We don't want to run out, right? Okay, here we go. Pushback completed, set parking brake. And parking brake set. Okay then, let's go ahead and start the engines. So engine start checklist. Condition levers open. Open beacon and nav lights. On and on. Okay, engine start selector port, engine master switch start, and starting left engine. And here we go, that's a good start on engine number 1, starting engine number 2. So starboard engine is selected, and yes, for some reason the Dutch are really using port and starboard here. However, there's a very easy reminder if you don't know which is which. Port is the side where the airport is docking, so always the left side where the passengers are getting in and out. So that's where the port side is, on the left, and then starboard is the right hand side. Very easy to memorize once you got it that way. Okay then, and that looks like a good start on engine number 2 as well. And here we go. Okay, lovely. Both engines are stabilized. Then we can secure the starter once again and do the after start checklist. External power is removed. The generators are on and the inverters or the alternators are on. Okay, so engine anti-ice is not required for our departure and remains off. Then probe heat on, alert light, actually window heat, we'll just pre-select it to low and on. Okay, and alert lights are out as needed, and that's the after start checklist complete. Now what's a little strange, if you have a look at the checklists over here, then that was the after start checklist. However, the before takeoff checklist ends with taxi perform. So I am also going to go over the before takeoff checklist here. So that's taxi lights. On, brakes. So park and brake off, a little bit of power. Brakes checked. And park and brake is set again. Okay, flaps. 11. And that's pretty... Nope, flight instruments. Let's see. Heading, that looking okay? No, it's not. We're basically aligned with the runway. So see, that's what I meant. GSX is messing up the heading with its pushback. Luckily, over here it's correct. So we just gotta synchronize it. So looking at 076 right now. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Okay, here we go. So, flight instruments are checked, strobe lights are not fitted. We do have the anti-collision for that. Weather radar is on, transponder 2000 standby, in the modern world should be on. And then we got the flight controls. So, let's do those. Full up, full down, neutral, full left, full right, neutral, and the rudder left, right, and neutral. Pitch trim, I would trim it a little bit like half nose up or so, or at least halfway between 0 and a quarter nose up. That normally works quite well. The manual says -2 degrees. Unfortunately, I got no idea to how many degrees this converts, so I'll just keep it that way. And then taxi perform, so that's the before takeoff checklist complete. Okay, so let's go ahead and taxi out to runway 07. You will find that the nose wheel steering is pretty aggressive in the Fokker. Like, look at this when we're about to make our first turn here. Now I'm entering just a bit of steering. You can see how it responds very, very quickly. So it does take a little to get used to it, just to be able to do some nice maneuvering here. We are going to go into kilo to the holding point. So yeah, it does take a little to get used to it. For me it took like 2 flights, then I was feeling happy. You will notice that when you go all the way into idle with your thrust levers, the engines do produce a little bit of drag here. And then we are going to stop right at the holding point. Here. Okay, lineup checklist. Landing lights. On, transponder, out, and perform the lineup. So the right hand side is clear and the left hand side is also clear. Let's go. And the left side is clear. Let's not get too fast for the lineup. And do it nice and steady. And by the way, I just want you to notice those beautiful textures on the runway. That's what I meant earlier when I said that Aerosoft's new Stuttgart is really a fantastic scenery. One of the best in the simulator now. Okay, here we go. So, takeoff is quite easy. Stabilize the engines at 50. Then go to 100. And takeoff. Okay, so the time is noted. Let's get going. Stabilize 50, Looking good, and take off. $60 knots, 80 knots, rotate. Positive climb, gear up. Flaps up. Speed checked, flaps up. So we can start accelerating a little bit already. Don't want to climb too fast here. If the VSI is built for only a maximum of 2,000 feet a minute, and don't really have to shoot past that, do we? Okay, and here we go. So let's synchronize that heading block, and then we can talk about engaging the autopilot here. So master on, then just command the pitch up to maintain the airplane where it is right now, like that, and heading select. We've just overflown Stuttgart VOR, so I'm going to give it a little distance before going into nav mode, but we are basically intercepting the 072 track down there. Also be sure that GPS is not active, so that you actually get your raw data down there. So we're airborne. Let's climb to flight level 140, like this, and make sure to keep the engines in limits. Not much that you gotta pull off, but a little. Okay, and then we're far enough out. Nav mode is on. And here's what I mean. The gear lever blocks the view of the DME. That's not exactly optimal. Okay, so standard is set, passing 50 now. So we're looking for 5.8 miles. That means basically the moment we see 6 on the DME up there is where we are gonna commence the left turn. And the turn is going to be towards 332 degrees. So heading back on the 332. Yeah, a little hard to set this. Here we go, heading back to 332. Let's also pitch down just a little bit here. And keep the engines up at a good power setting. Okay, so 5DME, waiting for our 5.8, so basically the moment it switches to 6, then we're going to return to heading mode and start the left-hand turn. And here we go, that's the 6. Heading. And then we can switch this over towards Lubbock, 1092. Insert the new track, 332. Like that. We may have to use a bit of an intercept track here. Let's fly north to intercept. And as soon as the beam comes live, we are going to activate nav mode to intercept it. Okay, so remember, you got to control the DME manually, so let's select 109.2 up here, so that we actually get the DME for Lubbock. Otherwise it would have remained on our previous setting. That's something that you got to get a little used to when you're used to flying modern aircraft. Back in the day, the DME receiver was a totally different one from the VOR receiver. Okay, here we go, the track is coming in. Then let's wait until it is a little closer so that we can actually make a nice intercept here. You can also see it down there on the chart, but let's get rid of our present position. Oh, that must be a little bug right now. Anyway, you get where I'm going with this, so there's that. Okay, we are nicely clear of the clouds for now, so let's go ahead and set the anti-ice off. Fuel leader is coming on, and windshield anti-ice off for the time being. Engine anti-ice is off already as well, so that's all looking good. And here we go, the beam is coming in. Nav mode is on. Yeah, here's what I wanted to avoid. A right-hand turn that would have intercepted too strictly. So 332 is the target. Let's follow 332. Alright, after takeoff climb checklist please. Landing gear up, flaps retracted, down there is the indicator. Okay, taxi light off, seatbelts remain on, altimeters set standard, landing lights off retracted, and pressurization. Differential pressure is building, cabin height is increasing, is looking fantastic. After takeoff climb checklist complete. And here we go, stabilized inbound Luburg. What do we have up there? Approaching VNAV profile. Yeah, we don't have a VNAV profile in this plane. Okay, nice. So, what are we scheduled to climb to? 14. Yeah, I think 14 is fine. Should probably still keep us under the clouds. I gotta say, this looks quite nice, doesn't it? And as you can see, it's not really too hard to fly the Fokker either. So 3 miles in Mount Luburg, thereafter it's gonna be a left turn 277. So let's pre-select the heading bug to 277. Like that, and then we'll need Karlsruhe VOR 1595. Here we go. Okay, so we're now 2 miles high, and there's 2 over there, so let's go ahead and start the left-hand turn. Then we can switch over, and 277. Set up there, and it's centered already. Perfect. So, nav. Quite easy, isn't it? You just need good charts, and you need a little bit of practice, and most importantly, you need a procedure that's actually designed to be flown that way. Now, you can fly all kind of on-off procedures if you just load them into the GNSS. Switch the CDI to GPS down here, then the plane is going to fly everything on-off and by itself. So you can make it easy if you absolutely want to. But where would the fun be doing that? Okay, so Karlsruhe 1595, we can select that on the DME up here. There we go. So 500 to go. Let's reduce our rate of climb a bit. We have to fly the level off manually. So let's approach nice and slow. $100 to go. Let's reduce that rate of climb. And, well, here we are. So, altitude hold is on. And here we are, 14,000. So, let's see. We got 25 miles to Karlsruhe, which is going to take us 6 minutes. Okay, and with that we've made it up to cruise level. Now, we are kind of cruising a little bit inside the clouds here, so I am going to keep the fasten seatbelt sign on for the flight. In terms of speed, 220 is the never exceed speed, or 224, there's a sticker down here. You can climb up to level 250, then it kind of reduces a bit, but from 0 to 20,000 feet, 223 is the normal operating speed, never exceed is actually 254. So VNO, you only fly faster when it's smooth, and then never exceed 254. So basically up to here, nicely marked on the speed indicator, you can do anything, and up to here is where it gets fancy. Okay. So why don't we just quickly go back and have a quick look into the cabin. So your controller. Always good shouting that to the other pilot when you're in the back already. But yeah, here we are. Now, for this short flight, it's not really worth flying any higher than this. Obviously, as I've shown you, the plane can go up to flight level 240, well, 250. Now, this is the seat where I would probably not want to sit in. I mean, it's front row, but you got that spinning thing right next to you. And I'm telling you honestly, I don't want to be around if one of these actually comes loose. So let's try the back of the cabin, see what it's like over there. Here we go, that's a nice seat, isn't it? Even though we can't really see too much. How about if we really go to the far end? Yeah, this is the furthest aft it lets me put my view. Oh, this is easier. Alright, and that's what it looks like. Honestly, it doesn't look too slow, does it? Like, from down here? Obviously, if we were in level 300 at the same speed, things would look different, but down here it doesn't look too slow. Alright, then let's walk back to the front and start preparing ourselves for the approach in Karlsruhe. Good old days where you could still leave the flight deck door open at all times, huh? Nonetheless, I don't want the cargo to fly into the cabin. So, here we are again. Nicely cruising along. Let's see what we got up there. 12 miles in to Karlsruhe. That's 3 minutes. 250 knots, so we're basically doing 4 miles a minute. Take the ground speed, divide by 60, then you know how many miles a minute you're doing. That's a pretty good formula, just to keep track of everything going on when you are just flying on steam gauges. Now, let's go ahead and start having a look into the charts for our destination. So, Echo Delta Sierra Bravo is where we are going. Arrival chart, Karlsruhe for Mike. Approach chart, probably the ILS 03, but let's check. Echo Delta Sierra Bravo, search 04011 Kavok 141013. Okay, quite the clear case. ILS 03. And we'll take the airport chart as well. So over to the pins, and here we go. So the star's an easy one. From Karlsruhe VR down to Baden-Baden NDB, and then we are going to join the ILS 03 from there, which is up on Baden-Baden until 13 DME, then a right-hand turn onto the ILS. So let's go ahead and prepare for that approach. We do need Baden-Baden, frequency 431. So let's tune that up here on the ADFs. 431, and on the right-hand side as well, 431. Now, from there on, we need Baden-Baden, 15.8 for the DME. Probably not going to tune that just yet, because we are still using the Karlsruhe one. And we'll probably need that until we are overhead Karlsruhe. Okay, and thereafter outbound, back inbound, 109.95. Can select that down here, or rather pre-select that. Okay, the minimum is at 606, field elevation 400, and the MSA 5400 for the highest. And parts of IFR profiles with an airspace class Echo, watch out for VFR traffic unknown to air traffic control. Caution, intensive glider activity to be expected. It's weekend, so chances are there is going to be that glider activity. The only good thing, this plane doesn't fly fast anyway, so we don't have to worry about that. Now let's come up with some vertical solution over here. 5,000 feet by the time we reach 13 DME. Thereafter we can assign a 4,000. So that means 5,000, we are cruising in 14, so we need to cover 9,000 feet. And we are gonna do that in 27 nautical miles. Speed reduction on an aircraft like this is always easy, so that's nothing to worry about. And yeah, that's about it. Now let's quickly go ahead and navigate a bit. Interesting, tells us we're outbound already. 237 is the new heading. Okay. That's what you'd have a first officer for. So heading 237. And we might just have to re-intercept that, so here we go, with a little bit of an intercept heading of 230. Well, let's make that 220. Okay, so for the vertical navigation, 27 miles, we got 13 over there, so that means 14 miles to Baden-Baden. So let's go ahead and tune that DME now. 15.8. There's 19 right now. 14 miles inbound, we are going to start the descent. Okay. So far, so easy. So we're waiting for the beam to come in again, and 17 miles, so another 3, that means in 1 minute, well, in 40 seconds we are going to start our descent. Looks like we may encounter a little bit of icing there. Outside temperature is minus 15. Okay, and the radial is coming in again. Let's wait until it is a little closer to the middle, then we're going to activate nav mode. Alright, and here's 14 miles, so let's go ahead and start our descent. So we can go all the way down to 6,000. Like that. So deactivate altitude hold and push down a bit. And here we go, we are back on the radial. So nav mode is coming on. Ground speed 280, that means we need about 1,200, well, give me 1,500 feet a minute. Something like that should be good. Okay, so some probable icing coming up, engine anti-ice on. I'm going to leave the windshield anti-ice off so that we actually notice when actual ice is forming. And yeah, look down here at the wiper, it's forming already. Alright, windshield anti-ice on. It's kind of funny how it clears it, like, immediately. That may be a little bit too fast, but hey. Okay, so 9 miles to run, and we should be down to 6,000 right now. Okay, cabin altitude. Down to field elevation. Let's reduce that rate of descent a bit, like that. Let's increase that rate of descent a bit, like this, and that's looking fantastic. So, let's take a very quick look. We got 13 miles to 5,000. 13 divided by 3 gives me roughly 12, which equals 4,000 feet, so 9,000 over the station, and we are good. Let's see. 5 miles at 4 miles a minute, so we're gonna be at, yeah, a little bit high right now, but if we keep this rate of descent, that is not going to be a problem. Okay, so reaching the station, we're going to fly outbound on a 197 track. So let's pre-select 197 down there. And at 2 DME, we're over at the station, so that's basically now. Let's go ahead and start the turn. Heading. So now we can go down to 5,000. Here we go. And now things are getting fancy, because we got to use the ADF down here. As you can see, the compass rose on here is not rotating. So what we'll have to do is, first of all, overfly the station. Once we're over the station, you can see the back of the needle comes up. And now we gotta check what our track is gonna be up here. Check where the back of the needle is, because that's our QDR. And then we just gotta get the back of the needle aligned with the 197 up here. So right now, to make it easy, we got 197. The needle is showing like 8 right, so we are on 206 roughly. So let's do a turn 10 degrees to the left. The nice thing is, when the back of the needle is up, you always pull the needle along. So if you want to move it to the left, then you are just going to turn to the left as well. Alright then, passing 10,000, landing lights are coming on, taxi lights are also coming on already. And the sights are already on. Let's see, temperatures are still negative, so we are going to keep the anti-ice operating, and then we can do the descent checklist, please. So, approach and landing briefing performed, pressurization is checked, fuel quantity is checked. Then seatbelts on, throttle set, landing lights are on, and altimeters QNH 1013 is cross-checked. Descent checklist complete. So going outbound to 13 DME. Then let's see, we're on 187 now, the needle is showing 10 right, so that's 197, so we should pretty much be right on track. Let's return to 197, and then we should be good. Let's see what we have down here. Yeah, a little right of track, that's fine. As long as we're within 5 or 10 degrees. I think it's 5 according to company, 10 according to the lawmakers. But as you can see, we are fine. So now we're on 197. Actually, it looks like the gyro has drifted a bit. That's actually 187. Okay, that's the reason why we're off track. Good. Then we gotta turn a little bit further to the right to drag that needle over. So we're approaching 5,000. Let's start leveling off. Let's do another couple of degrees right. And we're at 10 DME, so in 3 more miles we can start the right-hand turn. So we're at 217, that means when the needle is showing 10 left, then we can, then we're right back on spot. So let's make it a smooth level off. And we're at 12 DME. The moment this jumps to 13, we start the right-hand turn. And the altitude is looking good anyway now. Basically at 13 DME we can continue the further descent anyway. Here we go, 13 miles, start the right turn. Let's make it 330. And then we are going down to 4,000. Okay, so we're looking at a runway track of 030. Then 109.95 goes active. That is the ILS frequency. It does not have a DME associated, so we will be using the DME from Baden-Baden, 15.8, and that's still active up there. Good. I'm going to maintain the 330 degree track for the time being. And when the NDB is at like 40 degrees right, then we are going to start the right-hand turn inbound. Approaching. Okay, localizer live. Nav. So then we're looking at 030 and we are right on the glide slope. So that's looking fantastic. Autopilot off. Slightly overshooting, but we are within 1 dot, so that's completely fine. So ground speed 180, that means we need 1,000 feet a minute roughly to maintain the glide slope, so we do need a little bit more to recapture it. And the field is in sight on our 12 o'clock over there. Something that I like about flying these old school turboprops is that they have so much drag that you can see I've basically kept the throttle at the same setting for like the entire flight. Okay, here we go. So now we need 1,000 feet a minute to maintain the glide slope. And we are going to maintain the localizer, and with that we're nicely established. At 6 miles I'm going to start reducing our speed, but as you can see, even with almost full throttle, we are just doing 170 knots here, so that's really easy going. Okay, all anti-ice off. Six miles is very easy to make out because it's 2,000 above the ground, so basically now. So let's start pulling our throttles right back. Notice that I'm just pulling them to about the halfway position. Below 144, flaps 11, and now I'm already adding some thrust again, because when you pull the engines back you lose a lot, and I mean a lot, of elevator effectiveness. Alright, gear down, flaps 22, or whatever the next setting is. I think it's 22. And then flaps 28. So ground speed is now 110, and that means we need 500 feet a minute. Ground speed times 5, that's the rate of descent you need. Okay, outer marker. The check altitude is 1740, and we are in 1740, so that is perfect. 110 for the approach speed, and before landing checklist. Landing gear. Down. Landing and taxi lights on. Cabin crew advised flaps 26.5 degrees. Airspeed 110, and that's the before landing checklist complete. Alright, so once it's in trim, it's really easy to fly. You just gotta get it in trim, which I gotta be honest find a little difficult, especially when you're chasing the airspeed and trying to keep it exactly at the 110 knots. Then that's really making life difficult. When you get below 110, you're losing elevator effectiveness pretty quickly, but most important is that the elevator effectiveness seems to greatly depend on the throttle setting. So it does kind of make sense, because you got the elevator right within the slipstream of the propellers, but as you can probably guess, the moment you start pulling the props backwards, your elevators are losing a lot of effectiveness. For that reason, if you do pull them back for landing, I have found that the airplane just loses elevator control, the nose comes down, and you make a hard landing. So in order to counter that, I'm simply going to keep the thrust right in all the way until touchdown, and then pull her to idle. Okay, crossing the middle marker. A little bit of turbulence here. I am using a realistic turbulence setting, and I gotta say, it is fun to fight that. Alright, so flare, little bit less throttle, and here we are. Touchdown! I'm not using any manual braking at all. As you can see, very easy to slow down. And here we are, welcome to Baden-Baden. Okay, and then we can vacate the runway over here. Okay, runway is vacated, and after landing checklist, flaps, retract, taxi and strobe lights, on, landing lights, off, okay, radar and transponder, off and standby, flight control lock is not simulated, and taxi to parking. Okay, so let's get those airport charts, and we are going left on Golf, right on Kilo to the stands. So the left side is clear. Actually, why not go straight and then take the second left Romeo, because that brings us a little bit closer to all the terminals and stuff, so that you can get an idea of Baden-Baden over here as well. It is one of those airports. Yeah, I did fly out of here in real life. It is a shithole, but nonetheless, it is one of those airports that are just simulated really nicely. Lovely textures over here, and that's been in use for the military in the past. So it kind of still looks a lot like an airbase as well. Fun little airport, that much I can tell you. So I think we can just literally keep going for a bit. We'll take the next one, stand 26. Or shall we go up to the terminal? Yeah, I think we'll go up to the terminal, right? I like this. So stand 25, taxi light off, radars off as well. We've got a little bit of view of the countryside over here, which just shows you what kind of peephole this airport really is. So, then, self-maneuvering stand. And here we are. Okay, parking brake set and parking checklist, please. So, parking brake set, external power. Is on. Okay, engine condition levers, shut. And here we go. So, anti-ice is off, probe heat off, window heat off, exterior lights are off, fuel pumps off, seatbelt sign off, and door open, emergency lights off, batteries off, and that's it already. So for that we'll put the alternators off, we are going to switch the inverters off, we are going to switch the external power off, and then the batteries. Okay, and with that we've made it to Karlsruhe. So guys, let's go all the way to the back over here and let's open up those doors, and then that's it already. The brand new Microsoft / iniBuilds Fokker 27 Friendship. I like the airplane, I really do. And it's an easy one to learn. At first when you see the cockpit you're like, whoa, what is that? But believe me, once you have actually found your way around, it's not all that complicated of an airplane. It's not like a DC-6 or something which needs a little bit more effort, let's call it that way. Okay, and that's it. So thank you very much for watching. As always, like, comment and subscribe. Let me know how you like the Fokker. It's available on Marketplace, currently 15 euros, will go up to 20 later on. And with that, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and if you really do love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and see you all again on the next one.